Well, a lot of things have happened since the last time I saw you. I just want to talk a little bit about that war in the Persian Gulf. Big doings in the Persian Gulf. You know my favorite part of that war? It's the first war we ever had that was on every channel plus cable. And the war got good ratings too, didn't it? Got good ratings. Well, we like war. We like war. We're a war-like people. We like war because we're good at it. And you know why we're good at it? Because we get a lot of practice.
Terror bombing of civilian populations harden the resistance of those populations and result in the most controversial decision of the war, the dropping of the atomic bomb on Japan. In hindsight, one might argue that the declaration of unconditional surrender was one of Roosevelt's greatest blunders. To make matters worse, Roosevelt and Churchill confirmed at Casablanca the Allied decision to land in Sicily after North Africa, again postponing the Second Front in Europe and relegating their nations to further irrelevance in determining.
And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and hath taken away thy blessing. And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he hath taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
This country's only 200 years old, and already we've had 10 major wars. We average a major war in this country every 20 years, so we're good at it. And it's a good thing we are. We're not very good at anything else anymore. Can't build a decent car, can't make a TV set or a VCR worth the fuck. Got no steel industry left, can't get health care to our old people, can't educate our young people, but we can bomb the shit out of your country, all right? Huh? We can bomb the shit out of your country, all right? Especially if your country is full of brown people.
Now, the US was to be used as a big battering ram to bring the rest of the world into this global system, the planned economy, the planned society, from who should get born, who should not get born, and the social Darwinistic theory that they brought into it. And Rockefeller, of course, was all on board with that, the social Darwinism idea, where he himself certainly had his ideas of how the people should be run, who should order their lives, how to order their lives. And eugenics, of course, is a big part of it too. The Rockefellers funded the Cold Springs Harbor experiments and so on in eugenics, and started the award system for the monthly Americans Family of the Month awards way back in the 20s, I think it was. So it's interesting to see that every group you see that you belong to, if you belong to anything at all, where it's a religious group or whatever, it was taken over an awful long time ago. In fact, the history of the US is fascinating when it comes to religion, because you get the standard authorized version, cleaned up, of course. That's the authorized version of all the untidy stuff they don't want you to know. There's a lot of groups came into the US, many groups who were subversive. They weren't just getting persecuted because of religion or something. It's because they were subversive and revolutionary in their thinking. Many of them came in with Marxist ideas, in fact, in the late 1800s, and were very, very powerful, very vocal in the early 1900s, 1920s, especially in places like New York. Mass meetings in the streets, lots of old newspapers out at the time, their speeches, and they weren't the only group. Even before that, you had communities coming in that joined certain and created certain Christian sects, or guise of Christian sects, in fact, so that it was all for social change, particular types of change. And when you look at them all, it's always the same kind of change they're after. Once again, social Darwinistic management of the public from birth to death, who should live, who should die, would they need you down the road to work in their system, just like George Bernard Shaw said. He said, you have to come to us eventually to see if we should let you live or die. Why should we keep you alive? In other words, what use are you to us? That was the purpose of it all. You had to have purpose in order to be fed and kept alive, or even to be born. And we're getting to that stage now, the completion of it all, because you see, it's intergenerational.
Oh, we like that, don't we? That's our hobby. That's our new job in the world, bombing brown people. Iraq, Panama, Grenada, Libya, you got some brown people in your country. Tell them to watch the fuck out, or we'll goddamn bomb them.
One year ago, the people of Panama lived in fear under the thumb of a dictator. Today, democracy is restored. Panama is free.
And to say we invaded Panama because Noriega, I don't know how Americans can be so stupid to believe this. I mean, how can you be so stupid?
The performance of the mainstream news media in the coverage of Panama has been just about total collaboration with the administration. Not a critical perspective, not a second thought.
Our regret is that we were not able to use the media pool more effectively.
You would think from the video clips that we had seen that this whole thing was just a Mardi Gras, that the people in Panama were just jumping up and down with glee.
They focused on Noriega to the exclusion of what was happening to the Panamanian people, to the exclusion of the bodies in the street, to the exclusion of the number dead.
The truth of the matter is that we don't even know how many Panamanians we have killed.
Panama is another example of destroying a country to save it. The United States has exercised a might makes right doctrine among the smaller countries of the third world to invade these countries, get what we want, and leave the people that live there to kind of rot.
The invasion sets the stage for the wars of the 21st century.
If you look at any document in international law, any of numerous treaties, it's clear that this invasion was illegal. It's not debatable.
The goals of the United States have been to safeguard the lives of Americans, to defend democracy in Panama.
How in the world do you restore that which has never existed? Panama has never been a democracy since we created Panama for our own purposes in 1903. And all we did was go down to restore American control and dominance in Panama.
Sure, there must be something we could have done. We could have gone to the World Court. We could have gone to the United Nations or maybe the Organizations of American States. But invade a country because of this? It's absolutely ridiculous.
But the Americans didn't want Noriega. What they really wanted is to destroy the Panamanian army in order to do with the treaties what they wanted, which is what's happening now.
Well, when's the last white people you can remember that we bombed? Can you remember the last white? Can you remember any white people we've ever bombed? The Germans. The Germans are the only ones. And the only reason for that is because they were trying to cut in on our action. They wanted to dominate the world. Bullshit. That's our fucking job. That's our fucking job. Now we only bomb brown people. Not because they're trying to cut in on our action, just because they're brown. Now you might be noticing I don't feel about that war the way we were told we were supposed to feel about that war, the way we were ordered and instructed by the United States government to feel about that war. See, my mind doesn't work that way. I got this real moron thing I do, it's called thinking. And I'm not a really good American because I like to form my own opinions. I don't just roll over when I'm told to. Sad to say, most Americans just roll over on command. Not me. Not me. I have certain rules I live by. My first rule, I don't believe anything the government tells me. Nothing.
Hey, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone. This is Anaya Allah, Ban Yahweh, Ban Yasha Allah. And this is GMS Motivations. And it's really a response to Elder Tahar, Elder Apostle Tahar's, him basically giving out the decree of breaking down Genesis chapter 27 verses 40. Okay, and I'm gonna read it, and I got other precepts, and then I got some facts, some actual facts that I'm gonna go into. Because I'm gonna read the scripture first. Genesis 27 and 40, it says, "And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." Now, I'm pretty much answering the first sentence, and by thy sword shalt thou live. But to break down to the rest of the verse, I can get into that. But it's simple, as you see, you see in the first video, George Carlin explaining about American wars and how they're basically good at it. And the reason for that being is because that was the blessing that the Most High has given to the so-called white man, which is the Edomite race, okay, which are comprised of the so-called white men, okay, who lineage goes back to Esau, basically, okay. Okay, so I'll read it. Genesis 27:40, "And by thy sword shalt thou live." As you see in the intro, he lived by the sword, and I'm gonna go into his military campaigns since World War II. Because I'm gonna go into the word "live" too, because it's basically important. Okay, so as you see, as World War II was a last war fought in which the president asked Congress for a declaration of war. Since then, the United States armed forces have been in combat several times, including the following: 1950 through 1953, that was North Korea, supported by China, invades non-communist South Korea. UN forces, principally made up of U.S. troops, fight to protect South Korea. The Korean War is the first armed conflict in the global struggle between democracy and communism, which this is a hunk of bullshit right here. Let's just get that clarified. The elites, like I said, it's all about global dominance. They put they put freedom as a guise or a form of taking these people down, and really they destroyed. They was destroying South Korea, and a lot of casualties were not even those of their army. It was bystanders. Just a regular population. And so it was when they bombed Japan, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. They destroyed the resourceful their resources, and their factories, so on and so forth. But this is the plight of the so-called white man. This is his gift. And I'm going to go into that word. So live, and by that sword shalt thou live. 1961 Cuba, 1961 to 73 Vietnam War, the Dominican Republic, and a lot of these places are third world country, third world countries, man. They don't have too much of nothing. They do have resources, okay, but America being a bully, these Edomites military force, them being a bully of the world, what they did was occupy these countries' resources. Prime example, Panama, the Panama Deception. If you haven't heard about that, you can go into that. They invaded all these places, only to what? To really, when you go into it, steal their resources, okay? And impose trade laws and so on and so forth. But when you go into Genesis 27:40, and it says, "And by thy shores shalt thou live," when you go into the word live, all right, chaya, okay, chaya, the Hebrew word, it says to live, alive, save, quicken, revive, surely. Okay, that ain't. I'm gonna get into the nitty gritty. It says to live, have life, remain alive, sustain life. And how did it sustain life? Through stealing resources. Live prosperously. And America has lived prosperously. Okay. Live forever. Okay. And the scriptures talking about Esau, really a so-called white man, they want to live forever. Okay. Be quickened, be alive, be restored to life or health. All right. And that's why they fight in the name of democracy and freedom, so they can sustain their way of life. And that's not a secret. Any American knows that the military, they so-called fight for their freedoms when they really don't. They fight for the elites. They fight for the uh, global banking families. All right, via whether they be via Rothschilds, Rockefellers. That's the American version of the same family, but the rich oligarchies that run the world and that really fund these wars. Okay, because the wars are funded, where you think they get all the tanks and so on and so forth. So it's really a tooth and nail fight over resources. But that, like I said, that is the so-called white man's gift. That's what the Most High has given him. So back to the scripture. All right. It says from sickness, from discouragement. So to what? To sustain his life, sustain life from all discouragement. Okay, and that's why America has been so prosperous. Okay, so I'm gonna go back into the scripture. Then I'll explain the rest of the verse. All right, because that's actually his history, and that's how the Most High deals with prophecy. It jumps back and forth into time. So it says, "And shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." And that's what they okay, so Salaki, thou shalt serve thy brother, okay? And he's done it in times past as well. Okay, prior, or sorry, after the Roman Empire, the not the Holy Roman Empire, because that the Holy Roman Empire is basically us. Okay, uh, starting with Septimius Severus, Constantine the Great, and his sons. We ruled the Byzantine Empire from around 173 AD all the way up until the bubonic plague, or the plague. Okay, so, and that's when we started to decline. All right, as rulers over there in the middle. Well, I wouldn't say middle. Yeah, you can say Middle East, but mainly in Europe. Okay, so it says, "And shalt serve thy brother," which, and also they will serve us after their rulership is taken away, uh, which we see now, the empires that they have, the NATO, the EU, and America. Okay, but it says, "And shall serve thy brother." All right, they're gonna serve us in the kingdom of heaven, but this is a particular point in history. It says, "And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Okay. And that happened. That's why they got back in power. All right. And that lines up with Revelations chapter 20. You know, I'll get that real quick. But, you know, mainly my focus is on, you know, the first, you know, sentence in Genesis 27 and 40. Well, you can really start at 39. It says, and Isaac, his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword shalt thou live. Now, but when you go in Revelations, all right, Revelations chapter 20, okay, 21 through 4, it says, And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now that's the time we ruled from 173 AD all the way up into the bubonic plague, when we start to our rulership started to be taken away. All right, because you had notable black kings, you had notable black noblemen, you know, that ruled, and that was, you know, notable during the time what they call the medieval times. Okay, uh, but it says, and cast him into the bottomless pit, which was Europe. Okay, and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. Now, that little season represents uh, basically the intro of this video. All right, the wars and the dominance, okay, of the so-called white man, him dominating the globe, you know, by way of his blessing, which was a sword, and his military might. Okay, and you know that pretty much, is what it means. You know, he must be loose for a little season, you know, and he was loose. Okay, all right. So another scripture, just basically pointing out this white man. You know, the white man, he's basically getting exposed. You know, the truth is coming out on who he is and what he's done, and the Most High has pegged him. These are the things he cannot shake. You know, you know how people, they like to shake their history. The so-called white man can't shake it. You know, the skirt is being pulled up, so to speak. All right. So Obadiah 1:6, how are the things that Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? You know, hey, Psalm 64, let's 64 and 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away, man. And once these nations actually see, people see that the so-called white man is fitting these prophecies, they're they getting afraid, man. And the so-called white man can't hide it, you know. So Revelation 6 and 4, because even starting not just here in America, but Britain as well, because those are also Edomites, also so-called white men, all right, whose lineage goes back to the nation of Esau, but not all so-called white men who look white, who look like Edomites. We can only tell by the spirit. Those that look like Edomites can be of other nations, but this has always been about the nation of Israel versus the so-called white man who was Edom, and and we the so-called blacks, Latins, and Native Americans, we are Jacob. All right, this has always been surrounded by Jacob and Esau, the wicked versus the righteous seed. Okay, so this is Revelation 6 and 4. It says, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. All right. And that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Now that represents his military might. All right. This is evident. The evidence is right before our eyes, man. It can't be hidden anymore, And that pretty much concludes the lesson. Just wanted to throw some, some scenery in for you brothers, give you some visuals, like the scriptures say, make the vision plain upon tables, so he that readeth it may run, and pretty much there you go. So the truth is coming out, and this has pretty much been my motivation. This has been Anah Bani Hawada Bani Sha'ala. All praises and glory and honor go to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, meaning Yahweh and his son, through his son, Yahweh Shai. Okay, and always double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone. Hey, and Shalom.